And then the three people you mentioned, well, Bill Maher is a complete imbecile who pretends he thinks because he's wearing horn-rimmed glasses, he thinks he's an intellectual. No. Just donning horn-rimmed glasses doesn't make you an intellectual. He just posts these factoids. He hasn't a clue what he's talking about. And even though it's true that Ben Shapiro went to Harvard Law School, he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about when he talks about Israel-Palestine. Now, I'll give him this much credit, and it is credit. He knows enough to know he knows nothing. He knows enough to know he knows nothing. And that's why he'll never debate me, because he knows I will totally humiliate him.
Well, speaking of the web, Professor, one of my favorite recent developments has been seeing you kind of like enter the realm of online debate in a big way. We've really enjoyed reacting to you debate the likes of Piers Morgan and Alan Dershowitz recently, and also have quite appreciated that you've challenged several pro-Israel commentators to go head-to-head with you on the subject matter, including the likes of Mr. Ben Shapiro, Bill Maher, and of course, Destiny. For some reason, I feel like I haven't heard much about that debate getting set up since it was originally announced. So I was just wondering if you have any progress to announce that's been made as far as setting up some of those debates.
Look, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I have, at my age, before I have to face the repercussions of anything I say, I'll be 6 feet under, and I'll be ashes to ashes and dust to dust. So I don't really care, because I don't believe in an afterlife. I respect those who do, but I don't. So here are the basic facts. Number one, as everybody has said, the web has significantly democratized discourse in our society. That the parameters that have been set by the legacy media are very narrow. The web, so far, we don't know what's going to happen, but so far it's very free. The result is, I've not been on any legacy media. I've never been on television. Never. I have never been on domestic or in national television ever in my life. Actually, a fellow named Jim Morelli from the Boston Globe, he said, I want to be not the Boston Globe, a Boston television station. He wrote me this past week, I want you to be the first time on television on my show. I said, okay, fine, no problem. So I've never been on television. My books are never reviewed, even though, listen, guys, I wrote the only political history of Gaza. The only one. Gaza, an inquest into its martyrdom. It's the only book. That's why it was the #1 bestseller in Middle East books for Amazon, because it was the only book. My book was the equivalent of the tallest building in Wichita, Kansas. Maybe it's not a great book, but in Wichita, Kansas, it's a big book. Has it been reviewed anywhere? No, nowhere. No reviews. It doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Because the legacy media have very good discipline. They know what to mention, what not to mention. You don't have to tell them there's no big brother. They know what to do, how you keep your job. Don't mention this guy. So nothing has changed in the legacy media. The New Yorker, did it review my book? No. Atlantic Magazine, did it review my book? No. New York Times, did it review my book? No. Washington Post, did it review my book? No. No. Even though it's the only book on a news story that's been on the front page for more than 3 months. The only book on a news story that's been on the front page for 3 months, not one mention. Now, we come to the web. And the web was originally on October 8th, I think I was on the Jimmy Dore show with one of his assistants, not Jimmy Dore himself. And then for the first 2 or 3 weeks, nothing. Then I started to appear on Brianna Joy Gray, Crystal Bull, Katie Halper. I started the left podcasters more or less in my universe, political universe. Though everybody's afraid to touch me. I'm toxic. Who knows what this guy is going to say? He's going to say, long live Hamas, kill everybody in Israel. They're in a panic. As my late mother used to say, there are two kinds of people. One kind of people is they say what they think, and the other kind are they think what to say. And I'm going to say what I think. If that's what I think, I think. But if I think it through, and this is the conclusion I reach, I'll say it. And then the other side is those who think, what's going to get me in trouble? What's going to put me beyond the pale? What's going to put me over the precipice? They think what to say. I'm not that kind. So a lot of the podcasters, yourselves included, you figure, okay, this guy Finkelstein, he's a loose cannon, as I used to be called, even though I'm not at all. I am the most cautious cannon on God's earth. But once I've reached a conclusion after a lot of meditation, research, cogitation, then I'll say it. That's not a loose cannon. I'm very careful about what I say because I have a reputation. People count on me for my judgment, and I defer to that concern as to what I say. So I think things through very carefully. So the first few weeks, it began with just Jimmy Dore. By the third or fourth week, it was the left-wing podcast universe. And then for all sorts of eccentric reasons, I thought Candace Owens was extremely decent to me. And she was a serious listener, which I respect. And she was humble, which I respect, because she admitted, I don't know anything about this subject. I should listen, you know. But as you guys can gather, she was having a spat with Mr. Ben Shapiro. And this was her last program because she was leaving for maternity. She was going on maternity leave. So with all due respect to Candace, I do respect her. She decided to stick it to Ben Shapiro on her last show. And she had me on. You know, he could not have been pleased by that.
I'm sure it bothered him greatly.
And then the other person was Michaela Peterson, who I didn't know at all. No offense to her, but Michaela, if you're listening, I don't know anything about the web. I'm completely ignorant. So she had me on, and she was also wonderful. She's I don't know what this is all about. And this guy looks respectable. So she said she'll have two people on. She had the person supporting Israel first and my position. I don't support Israel. I don't support Palestinians. I couldn't care less. I remain part of the old international tradition. I support oppressed peoples and I support truth and justice. I'm not partisan to any ethnic group. Doesn't interest me at all. Never much did. Including the fact that I'm Jewish. Obviously, I'm not going to be unnecessarily harsh to Jews, but on the other hand, it's not going to affect my opinion. Right is right, wrong is wrong, true is true, false is false. Of course, I have a partisanship to oppressed peoples. And that was really it. You know, there's a kind of an optical illusion because you realize when you're in the web world, you live in as I say, in a silo. So you decide you like Norman Finkelstein, so then the algorithm tells you every Norman Finkelstein program. And then you think I'm everywhere. No, I'm really not everywhere. It's just your algorithm that's making it appear as if I'm everywhere. I'm really not. And then the three people you mentioned, well, Bill Maher is a complete imbecile who pretends he thinks because he's wearing horn-rimmed glasses, he thinks he's an intellectual. No. Just donning horn-rimmed glasses doesn't make you an intellectual. He just posts these factoids. He hasn't a clue what he's talking about. And even though it's true that Ben Shapiro went to Harvard Law School, and I'm not going to deny that achievement, it is an achievement, but one has to bear in mind that, you know, when you write, for example, a doctoral dissertation, you focus on a very, very tiny area. Because you have to get a doctoral dissertation through, you have to make an original contribution. And in order to make an original contribution, you have to find some tiny, tiny area which nobody else has investigated. The bottom line is, you don't know much more than that tiny area, but you really don't. You have to take 2 years of classes, which are, you know, general classes, to learn your general field. 2 years. And then you start working your doctoral dissertation. And it's the same thing in law. There are 10,000 subdivisions of law. So Ben Shapiro may know torts. He may know criminal law. He may know tax law. He may know any of these, you know, various divisions. But what these people do is They flaunt their degree and then pretend they have authority to speak on everything. No, you really don't have authority to speak on everything. You may have taken one course, you may have read 4 books on a particular topic. That doesn't give you expertise. That doesn't endow you with authority. But you hear the prefix Harvard Law School graduate, and everybody knows, bedazzled by it. He doesn't have a clue what he's talking about when he talks about Israel, Palestine. Now, I'll give him this much credit, and it is credit. He knows enough to know he knows nothing. He knows enough to know he knows nothing. And that's why he'll never debate me, because he knows I will totally humiliate him. When I looked at his series, he did a series on Israel, Palestine. It was rife with the most basic errors. I'll give you one example. You won't know the particulars, but you'll be able to grasp the general point. So you know there's a June 1967 war, correct? And then a few months later, after the June 1967 war, the Arab states meet in a summit. It was a summit at Khartoum. Khartoum is in Libya. They meet at a summit, and after the war, they expressed their anger and indignation over what Israel had done. So just listen, it's not complicated. I don't want to bore you with details, and it's not complicated. 1967 war, Arab summit in Khartoum. You know what Ben Shapiro says in his video? First, there was the Arab summit at Khartoum, which rejected Israel, and then there was the 1967 war. It's like saying World War II came before World War I. He's a complete imbecile. A total imbecile. Nobody who has taken a 100-level course would make that kind of error. So he and Bill Maher have had the wisdom. You know what they say: discretion is the better part of valor. And they had the valor of taking a pass on debating me. The other one who's a moron is Jordan Peterson. You know, he's got nice hair plugs. I'll grant him that. But beyond that, come on, this is not serious.
Yeah.
He said he's interviewed by what's his name, Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan says, "So, Mr. Peterson, can you tell us what happened on October 7th?" And he says, "Well, what happened was the mullahs in Iran were losing power, and so they decided to rattle the chain of Hamas, and Hamas launched the attack." I was like, what are you talking about? All the intelligence information shows that neither Hezbollah nor Iran even knew the attack was going to happen. What are you talking about? These people, you know, it makes you, if you don't mind my saying so, with all due regard to you guys, it makes you despise men. Their arrogance, the alpha, you know, what is it called? The alpha?
The alpha male, yeah.
The alpha male. My best interlocutors so far have been Crystal Ball. She's learning now. She knows a lot now. No question in my mind about it. She really brushed up. But at the beginning, I don't know anything. Let me listen. Brianna Joy Gray, she was less of a listener because she knows more. You know, she's very, very smart. But also humble. Not always to me, but okay. Katie Halper, listen. Candace Owens listened. If you watched her, she was so intent. You know, it's like when I'm teaching and I have a student who's listening with such intensity, you can almost feel the intensity. She was listening. And same thing with Michaela Peterson. And then you have these guys. There's Ben Shapiro. There's Jordan Peterson. There's Bill Maher. They're so full of themselves. So full of themselves. Now, look, if you're very smart, I can accept you're full of yourself. You know, it's an achievement. I wish you were more humble, but okay. But to be full of yourself and you don't have a clue what you're talking about, it's so revolting.